Hello, everybody. Very happy to be with you here today, and it's great that a lot of you are sticking until late today. What I'm going to speak about today, in fact, I should have been speaking in the morning, but nonetheless, I just would like to highlight what has been going on in terms of hydrogen energy initiatives in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia over the past few years, and where the kingdom is going ahead in terms of its clean energy transition policy as a part of its 2030 economic diversification plans within the next 10 to 20 years. First, at CMarkits, what we do is energy markets analysis. So we work closely with OPEC+, and we try and project the geopolitical impact on oil market directions, and we try to advise policymakers on where actually trying to enable them to manage the risks when managing oil trade. So first, I would like here to highlight is what has the kingdom done in terms of its hydrogen energy strategy, and where would that fit within the global energy transition framework? So if we look at the IEA projections, of course, currently the demand for hydrogen is very low compared to where the targets are going. And I think today we heard an amazing presentation from my colleague from Honeywell. And the figures, what the figures show is that if we're going to achieve the net zero target, demand for hydrogen is expected to reach 500 million ton per annum. In fact, it's going to exceed that level. And that is by 2050. And today's figures, how much it is, it's like between 70 to 80 million ton per annum. So where would that hydrogen come from? Certainly, we could talk about here hydrogen from water, green source, as a green source, but I still believe that hydrocarbons will play an important role in supplying that hydrogen as a cheap and very reliable source, and in terms of let's say, the feasibility of that. And certainly Saudi Arabia is taking a key role in that. So one interesting thing here that also I would like to highlight is that the production levels by 2030. So we expected that the demand will be something like 200 actually million ton of hydrogen by 2030. And here, just look at the technologies. The projections expected that fossil fuels without CCUS and with CCUS is expected to play at least 70 to 80% from these projections compared to the green route. So hydrogen, of course, now hydrogen is a lot in the media compared to 10 years ago when I was doing my PhD at Imperial College, especially in the Middle East. At that time, there was a lot of talk about batteries and EVs, but now hydrogen now is pretty much shaping the news. And what happened with that is that people started making colors of hydrogen, whether it's gray, green, white, and various types of colors that I've never heard of. But all these colors just represent the ways how hydrogen is being produced. Certainly, the green one seems like the most attractive, but also we have the blue one. And the blue one, which essentially it is the one that we get from fossil fuels, pretty much hydrocarbons with captured CO2. So in a way that it is a neutral way of capturing carbon. The only drawback here is that you would need energy to extract the hydrogen atom from the hydrocarbon. But certainly that energy is much, much less than the amount of energy that you would need in order to get it from the water molecule. Certainly there's also the white and aquamarine routes, which you would essentially splitting the water molecule using thermal splitting. So what's the opportunity here for a country like Saudi Arabia, a major oil exporter, and essentially pretty much known as let's say, the key influencer of global oil markets. Of course, here, for any hydrogen, if we want to get hydrogen, you would need hydrocarbons, as I just mentioned. And it's cheap, feasible, and reliable source of hydrogen. So here, if you're going to produce CO2, the CO2 can be recaptured and converted into something else, something an added value, like polymer, urea, and various added value chemicals. And here the kingdom has actually led a very recent initiative when Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman, the current energy minister of Saudi Arabia, has led a very huge program called the Circular Carbon Economy Program, very well invested program that is whose target is to try and identify new routes of utilizing oil within the next 20 years, and also to invest in technologies that are capable of converting CO2 into useful chemicals. So in a way that it's essentially trying to achieve the carbon cycle, where every carbon emitted from hydrocarbons is going to be used for something else. And there's an added value for the whole economy. Here, of course, one way, what's the advantage that compared to getting hydrogen from water molecules? Essentially, it's the cost. Also, the efficiency, certainly renewables, the efficiency of renewables will need certain time in order for the world to move into what some argue that 100% renewable energy system, but certainly that will take time. So certainly within the next at least 20 years, hydrocarbons will stay as an important supplier of energy. And here I mean energy, it could be in the form of hydrogen. So this is let's say, the rationale of moving towards the circular carbon economy. And one important field that has been just discovered to support the kingdom targets into achieving that is Al Jafurah gas field. It is the world's largest unconventional gas field ever discovered, with 200 trillion TCF, essentially 200 TCF. That's trillion cubic feet of gas reserves. And the production level of that gas is going to be something like 2.2 BCF by 2030. So in fact, the investments being placed into that field within the next 10 years is expected to exceed $100 billion. So when the gas field has been discovered, of course, as you all know, that Saudi Arabia combusts oil to generate power, one of the fewest countries in the world that uses oil for direct power generation. And there has been an expectation that the kingdom is going to go into exporting gas and to become, let's say, a global gas market player. But now the target is to use all of the gas discovered in Al Jafurah gas field on the eastern side for power generation. So 50% of power generation in Saudi Arabia will come from natural gas by 2029. And the other 50% is going to come from renewables, with at least 60 gigawatt installed capacity by 2030. So the remaining part of Al Jafurah gas field will power the blue hydrogen project. So at least 90% of 4 million ton production capacity level by 2030 will come from Al Jafurah gas field. And that will make Saudi Arabia the world's largest producer of hydrogen by 2030. So as I mentioned now, 4 million ton, that's the production capacity by 2030, and at least 90% of that will come from Al Jafurah gas field. The other 10% will come from here, NEOM. And perhaps you all know the new smart city on the northwest of Saudi Arabia with $500 billion investments. That's the world's first carbon neutral city. And there is a huge project just being developed between Air Products and Aqua Power, which is now expected to start producing 650 ton per year of green hydrogen. So the cost of this green hydrogen is the world's lowest. So that's between $1 to $2 per kilogram. And of course, perhaps you have seen a recent visit of the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia to Greece, which has actually just frankly discussed that Saudi Arabia can be a supplier of green hydrogen to Europe via Greece. So Greece will act kind of a hub for green hydrogen distribution to the European continent. And this is especially critical given the energy crisis happening now in Eastern Europe. So this is one important, let's say, source of green hydrogen. And I believe the capacity of that can certainly be scaled up as the cost can come down with time. Certainly, the kingdom has signed collaboration agreements with Greece, with Germany, and other countries in terms of doing a green hydrogen collaboration within the next 10 years. So here, I would like also just to show the cost comparison, and that can place the Middle East as an important supplier of hydrogen over the next few years. And these are the cost technology curves with time. Certainly here, I'm trying just to highlight the cost competitive advantage. So, and these are also play with that, just to show you here, the cost can be less than $1.6 per kilogram with time. So that is with green hydrogen coming from solar. So with that, I would like to conclude, and thank you very much for listening.